A warm welcome to Disky Talk with Luyolo. If you're tuning in for the very first time, I'll ask that you please subscribe and hit the notification bell. If you've been a part of this journey, I hope you thoroughly enjoy this episode. So, on today's episode, I discuss all things Bafana Bafana, Hugo Broos, World Cup qualifiers, and the upcoming encounter where they will play against Ghana. However, we will start with the first segment then and have a look at a post-match analysis of some sort of how things played out against Zimbabwe. We do know that they played to a 0-0 draw, which to a certain degree, from my opinion, it was a very boring game, especially considering the fact that we didn't create too many clear-cut chances. However, let's get into the lineup and the approach. So, Bafana Bafana did start with, I'd call it a hybrid system because it did look at times a 4-4-2, but a hybrid between 4-4-2 and 4-2-3-1 whenever Percy Tau would have to come and drop deep to collect the ball. But that's something I'm going to go into a lot further on in the episode. So the red team, yes, of course, representing Bafana Bafana. The focus is on Bafana Bafana, so I'm going to focus on them largely on today's episode. So we did start then Ronwen Williams in goals. So Ronwen Williams has been made the national team captain. So that tells you everything you need to know with regards to his position and going forward with regards to his importance within the national team. So yeah, it is clear that he is going to be number one for a very long time until something does happen with guys like Ricardo Goss and guys like Broos on a club level with regards to their game time and their consistency. However, Ronwen Williams then did start in goals. We had a back four of Thapelo Morena at right back, two centre halves. Xulu started as the right-sided centre half. Left centre half, we had Rushin Duruk. And then at left back, we had Nigo Mobi. So looking then at our back four, very surprised with two players being involved there, especially when you look at Nigo Mobi and Xulu. But I will start with Mobi at left back. So what's surprising here is that Mobi is naturally a right-footed player. So when you start a right-footed player at left back, it limits us in so many ways. So when we look at it from a developing perspective, when we develop the game, and so this would be the build-up phase. In the build-up phase, what would happen is Mobi would get wide into that area in vertical zone 1, and whenever he'd get the ball, because he is right-footed, he'd always shape up into midfield as opposed to opening his body and having the whole view of the field. So with regards then to how he positions himself, he'd have less space. But if you start a left-footed player as a left back and he gives us the width from a developing perspective, when we're building up play, what tends to happen is on the line, you've got a plethora of space to look at. So you've got the whole pitch to survey. Whereas if you're right-footed, because you're always looking to collect the ball on your strongest foot, which is your right foot. And it so happens then that that's not your back foot. So you're always a lot more square on into the pitch as opposed to opening up your body and having the whole width and the whole view of the pitch, which already is a negative for me because when it comes then to how we build up play, sometimes you need a player who's got that one-touch pass. But because he's right-footed, he first has to control it, then have a look, and then bring it onto his left. But if he's not comfortable to pass it with his left, he then has to shift it back to his right foot. So that takes up seconds. And we do know that there's different types of build-up phases. Sometimes you need to build up very quickly. Sometimes you have to take an extra touch in build-up to draw certain players whenever being pressed. But in vertical zone 1, from a deep position and a deep pocket of space in vertical zone 1, very important that you have a left-footed player, because when he opens up his body and gets the ball, he opens up so many passing angles, firstly, and secondly, the passing channels, which he's able to play the ball into. So already that for me is a negative when you start a Nico Mobi, because if you look at it, he's called up Mabiliso. Why not use Mabiliso, a natural left-footed player, who whenever he gets out wide, the first instinct is to receive the ball on the back foot with his first touch and then move forward. That is a progressive first touch, as opposed to a right-footed player who's always going to look to control the ball infield or go back onto his right foot. That is negative, and that takes away time whenever we have to build up play. We have to build up play in the developing phase of the game. And then when you look at players, in South Africa, was spoiled for choice, I believe, currently at this left-back position. So when I look at Hugo Broos and his methodology with regards to how he selected a right-footed left-back, I'm very disappointed, because you look throughout the country right now, we've got Laila K, who's in fine form. We've got Terence Mashego, who's in fine form at Cape Town City. Those are two quality left wing backs, So yes, they start in the fullback position, but by virtue of their skill set and their ability to interpret space and read the game, they push up very well, and they can occupy vertical zone 1 very well, and they're very comfortable in vertical zone 1. So those are the type of players we should be looking at. So I'm very disappointed that we then end up going to such a serious encounter with a right-footed left-back. So already for me, that was a no. I would have started with Mabiliso within the squad, but you guys do know how I feel. I've been very vocal that I think Laila K should be the first choice left-back at national team, with Terence Mashego deputizing him. So I would have started with Mabiliso at left-back. And then when we have a look at the centre-back partnership, happy with Rushin Duruk. He is very comfortable on either side. He can play as a left-sided centre-half or a right-sided centre-half. And what's special about Rushin Duruk is his passing range, A. B, he's ambidextrous. So very comfortable on either foot, and very good at shifting the ball from left to right foot with ease. And if you've played the beautiful game, that skill, it looks easy, but it's very difficult actually to shift the ball from one foot to the other foot with comfort and ease. And that's what Rushin Duruk is good at, and he's very solid. So I think he should be the main centre-back for Bafana Bafana. So great that he starts. With Kulu, my only issue is that they're very similar players in a sense, and they don't really complement each other. And I just think you need a player that will complement Rushin Duruk, which makes out for a better centre-back pairing. So I personally would have gone with Unjabulo Ngobo, and I would have looked at Rushin Duruk and Ngobo as a pair going forward for Bafana Bafana. I think that is the pair that we should be building around, and especially when you look at how they complement each other so well. One can go and initiate play or initiate tackles, then one comes to cover, and they read the game very well. And we did see that at the COSAFA Cup, they're pretty much on the same wavelength. So these are quality centre-halves which could be instituted at the heart of defence for Bafana Bafana. At right back, happy with Tapelo Morena. He is the best right back in the country. However, I just feel like in the game against Zimbabwe, at times he struggled, and he didn't really give us that outlet on the right-hand side. However, I would continue with Tapelo Morena. And then in the heart of midfield, we went with Mtobi Mvala and Mukwena. So happy with the inclusion of Mukwena, but my qualm then was with Mtobi Mvala. So I will start by acknowledging that he's a very good midfielder, A. B, he will combat for you, and he will work very hard, very good at pressing, and very strong player, very, very strong player. However, with my opinion and the school of thought that I am when it comes to football and my philosophy and what I would like to see and institute on the football pitch, I would like to have a much more comfortable midfielder, and a midfielder which would complement Mkwena very well, especially if you're going to play them in a double pivot, and I would have gone with Yusuf Mart, because A, He's much more caring when it comes to taking care of the ball, and he nurtures the ball very well in the build-up phase whenever he comes deep to collect, and the consolidation phase whenever he has it in there. He knows which passes to pick. He's a lot more comfortable on the ball than Mbala, and he's also a combative midfielder, so he can also get stuck in. I think they complement each other very well. And as a result of that, because of our midfield, it saw Percy Tau having to drop in deep to collect the ball, which is what made Bafana Bafana struggle. We didn't have that free-flowing, fluid, passing, positional game. And it's a big problem because when you have a look at the types of players that we have, we should be instituting that style of play. And we should be controlling the game against Zimbabwe. And if you can't control the game against Zimbabwe, especially in the heart of midfield, where Zimbabwe was a bit thin for me because they went with the 4-4-2 and had Marshall Munetsi in midfield, I think we should have looked to overload the central zone and looked to overload the half spaces. But you can't do that when you don't have a link between midfield and the forward line. And I think we didn't have a link because Mokoena was dropping too deep at times. So that's why I say you need a midfielder who will be able to complement him. So whenever Mokoena does drop to collect, Yusuf Mart can advance up the field, very good in tight spaces, very good in vertical zone 3, vertical zone 2, and vertical zone 4. You know, the two half spaces and the central zone. He's very good at that. So you need someone who can complement Mokoena and who can also help advance the ball. Whereas with Mbala, yes, very strong, very good, but a lot of his passes are sideways and he plays it safe. And whenever you do go with the midfield too, you need one who's a lot more penetrative and a lot more progressive and forward thinking. So I would have gone with Yusuf Mat. And I think that's where our biggest problem was against Zimbabwe. We just, in consolidation phase, we had nothing, in my opinion. No fluidity, no creativity. And that's why then you saw Percy Tau always having to come deep. And when Percy Tau comes deep, look, we're doing him a disservice, you know. And as a result of that, I think he also had a bad game. Because Percy Tau should be as high up as possible, you know. So when you're looking at vertical zone 2, vertical zone 3, and vertical zone 4, which are the two half spaces, and the central zone, which then higher up the pitch becomes zone 14, that's where you want Percy Tau as close as possible to goal, in and around the box, in those tight areas, to work his magic and get as close as possible to goal, because he is a very good finisher, in my opinion, and can score his goals. So when you're having him coming deep, it's counterproductive, you know, it really doesn't help. So then on the left wing, we started with Gift Links, and then we started with Singh. Look, from these two players, I was disappointed. I just think we didn't get anything from them, you know, on the day. And many a times, the Zimbabwean defense was left exposed one-on-one. That's when they could take their man on and look to beat them. Up front, we started with Mahopa and Percy Tau. Like I mentioned, for me, yeah, it wasn't a great outing for either one of the two. You know, there was just no synergy with them. And I think Percy Tau would drop too deep, you know. And as a result of that, it goes back to what I was saying, that in midfield, we were very thin and we struggled. So going then into the next encounter, which, look, we're going to play against Ghana. But before we go into that, I'd just like to note with the substitutes. So we brought Hlongwane on, and look, he's a very good young player, a player that I like. However, in my opinion, I just think that he's a target man. He's an out-and-out striker. So you want him as close as possible to goal, as opposed to having him on the left wing where they brought him. You know, I also thought that was counterproductive to a certain degree, you know. I just thought that it would be better to have him there. So fine, bring him on for a links, but then maybe have Percy Tau go to the right, have Luther Singh go to the left, and then go with two up front if you want to go with two up front. But yeah, also with the substitutes, I think Hugo Broos got it wrong. And another thing is the formation. You know, I just think that we're not well suited for a 4-4-2 or for a hybrid of a 4-2-3-1. I think we're better suited for a 4-3-3, you know, but that is something I will go into depth as we discuss the tactical analysis in the extra time segment against Ghana. So let's have a look at that then as we go into the extra time segment where we have a tactical look of things as to how will the game against Ghana shape up. And let's have a look at Ghana. And the blue team will represent Ghana. And let's have a look at them. So we do know that with Ghana, they won 1-0 against Ethiopia. So the group standing so far, you've got Ghana on 3 points. You've got Zimbabwe and South Africa, a point apiece. And then you got Ethiopia at the bottom. And look, on paper, when you look at Zimbabwe and you look at Ethiopia, you're thinking that, okay, these aren't, traditional footballing sides within the African landscape. But we must not underestimate those teams because they will combat. And just like any other team in Africa, they'd like to go to the World Cup. So they are going to go out and look to play to their very best. So going then into the game against Ghana, what I will do is the red team will represent Bafana Bafana, blue team will represent Ghana. So what I will do is I'll give you my 11 that I would go with and what I would be looking to do against this Ghanaian side, especially considering certain tactical nuances that are very much part and parcel of this Ghanaian squad and what I would do against Ghana and what I think would give us the 3 points against Ghana. And the most important thing to note here is that if we can't get 3 points against Zimbabwe, already I think that's a huge negative. That just dampens our aspirations when it comes to qualifying for the World Cup, And for me, this approach of home and away, we need to forgo that. If you want to qualify for the World Cup, 3 points is 3 points, And there's no home or away mentality that we're going away, a point is enough. It's just not good enough, Especially when the home team is there for the taking, Zimbabwe were there for the taking and we had to just go out and get those 3 points. But we didn't, which is very disappointing, And the whole mentality of home and away, no. Go out there and get the points. You have to be cutthroat when it comes to these things. And if you want to qualify for the World Cup, you can't be playing a game of the 1 point. No, because Ghana's approach is not that. Ghana, they want 3 points at all costs, whoever they play against. So then I will start with Ghana, and then I'll go into Bafana Bafana and what I would look to do with Bafana Bafana. So Ghana then against Ethiopia started with Ofori goals. And they started with a 4-4-2 hybrid of a 4-2-3-1, something along those lines. And look, it's modern day football. So a lot of these systems are hybrid. Football is a very dynamic sport. So the formations aren't static, very dynamic, lots of movement and fluidity. So Ghana then started with, I'll start them out in a 4-4-2. Which transitions into a 4-2-3-1. So in goals, they started with Ofori. At right back, they started with Andrew Kayer. 2 centre-halves. They had Daniel Amati, who plies his trade at Leicester, right-sided centre-half. The left-sided centre-half, they had Jiku. And the left back was Baba Rahman, who we all know most notably from Chelsea, and he spent some time out on loan, and so Baba Rahman, very energetic fullback. He does get forward, so he does possess a degree of quality, so he can hurt us when going forward. Also very comfortable on the ball, and that's what this Ghanaian back four look to do. They look to open up at all times, and look, they always look to play out from the back. That's what they're looking to do. They're looking to play out from the back as they're very, very comfortable on the ball. That's what they do, this Ghanaian side. So they're not going to hoof the ball forward, but they do have an element of being very direct. So sometimes they will bypass their midfield and they will hit that ball into the channel for Ayew or for the other Ayew brother, So, there's 2 of them. There's Jordan Ayew and there's Andre Ayew. So sometimes they will look to bypass and hit Andre Ayew or Jordan Ayew. That's what they will look to do at times. So, and then when we go into midfield, the mainstay, you've got Wakasu and then you've got Mohamed Baba. And then from the right side, so they play very much with narrow midfielders on the sides, Okay, except on the left side, they did start with Jeffrey Schlapp, who's like an out-and-out left winger. He can play as a left wing back as well. Another one that grew to prominence at Leicester, who currently plies his trade at Crystal Palace. So, yeah. And then on the right-hand side, they started with Kamal Sulayamana. Yeah, so that's how you pronounce it. They've got very long names, guys, very long names. But we will go with Kamal, you know. They started with Kamal on the right-hand side. And then up front, it was the two Ayew brothers. But during the game, we did see that Schlapp had to be substituted. And then they started with Kreyar. So that's also another player that they could start with. So that's how this Ghanaian side lines up. So Andre Ayew does from time to time tend to take up sort of the number 9 position. His brother Jordan would then go to the left, and then Kreyar would tuck in at times and make it a 3 in midfield. And then that's where Jordan Ayew would go. So at times, that's why I mentioned that the hybrid system. So sometimes it would go to a 4-5-1. He would start on the left-hand side whenever they don't have the ball. And then when they do have the ball, he'd tuck in a lot close to his brother because, you know, it's family. He wants to be close to his brother. And then Kreyar would be the one to sometimes offer the width on the left. But it's a very fluid system. And yeah, so obviously, then, when we look at Ghana and their most threatening players, you've got the two Ayew brothers, and very much in sync, and how they play off one another, you know, very good players. So they will be the threat against us, and it's going to be a very daunting task for our back line because, yeah, these two quality footballers. And in the heart of midfield, Wakasu, he's the one who got the goal against Ethiopia. Very experienced player who's going to cause so many threats. And also in the midfield, you know, how does Tebogo Mokoena come up against Wakasu? How does he combat that? That's going to be the battle in midfield. But let's go on then and have a look at Bafana Bafana. So we don't know what Hugo Broos will go with. He could potentially, if we're talking from a consistency perspective, if he does go with the same lineup, then you got Nico Mobi, you got Rushun Duruk as the left-sided centre-half, you've got Sianda Kulu as the right-sided centre-half, you got Tapelo Murena as the right-back, you've got Vala Mokoena, you've got Tau and Mahopa, and then you've got Singh, you've got Links. But now, this is what I would do against Ghana, because first and foremost, I must mention that the Ghanaian back four is very slow, A. B, they prefer to play against physical forward line players. You know, so when you have a target man, that's what they want. They want to play against physical players. So to be smart and look to get the 3 points, what I would do then against Ghana is I would make certain changes, you know. So in goals, I would keep Williams as the national team captain, kept a clean sheet as well. And then I would have Rushin Duruk starting as the left-sided centre-half. Then I would have Njabulo Ngobo coming in. Yes, I know Kulu kept the clean sheet, and if it's not broken, don't fix it. But from a developing of the game perspective and from a reading of the game and complementing each other, I think it could be a lot better from a centre-half perspective. And take nothing away from Kulu because he's also very comfortable on the ball and also very good at breaking lines from deep. But I just prefer Njabulo Ngobo alongside Rushin Duruk. At right back, I'd keep Tapelo Murena. No issues there. Left back, we have to bring Mabiliso in as I think it's going to be very important that we have a left-footed player in vertical zone 1, especially in the deeper spaces. And whenever he does look to progress the ball from the build-up phase into consolidation phase. And then in the heart of midfield, I would change. So I wouldn't go with the 4-4-2 or a 4-2-3-1. I wouldn't go with any of those that Hugo Broos went with. I'll go with the traditional 4-3-3. And the reason why I'd go for that as I look to pack the midfield is because Ghana are a bit thin in their midfield. They play with the midfield 2. Yes, the 2 men out wide, they do sort of come in. But from a central perspective, I'd look to overload the central zone and look to dominate the game. Because if you're able to dominate the game from a central perspective in vertical zone 3 against Ghana, you stand a very good chance of winning the game. So I'll go with the traditional 4-2-3-1. So yeah, I would have Yusuf Mart as my number 6. Then I'd have Tebogo Mokoena who would sort of be the box-to-box as the 8 who would join. And then I'd have Mbule as the 10. So those are the 3 that I'd have in midfield, because also you're looking to get a hold of the ball, and we're playing at home as well. You know, you're looking to get a hold of the ball, you're looking to control the game, and you're also looking to have a link between the defense, the midfield, and the forward line. So from build-up phase to consolidation phase and incision phase, we must be intertwined. And when you then have ball-playing midfielders who are very comfortable on the ball, they're always looking to get onto the ball and collect the ball from these 2 centre-halves. And whenever the fullbacks are in vertical zone 1 and vertical zone 5, in the deeper spaces, you're always going to have these guys popping up to collect the ball because they will support them. That's what they do. So that's what I would be looking to do from a midfield perspective. And then what I would do is start Percy Tau as an inverted winger. Start him off the right-hand side as opposed to having him central, you know. And what would be nice with regards to the partnership and the relationship down the right-hand side, because we know that Thapelo Morena loves to go, it would push Percy Tau to tuck into vertical zone 4, which is the right-sided half space. So he would always be cutting in onto his left strong foot and pushing him up a lot further forward. And another reason why I'd have a midfield 3 is because now you relieve the duty of Percy Tau of having to come deep and looking to create play, because now you've got a number 10 in Mbule who specializes in that when it comes to vertical zone 2, 3, and 4. So very comfortable, especially in this area when sometimes he does tend to drop deep into the spaces. So that would complement Percy Tau very well, because then that would push Percy further up the pitch and we'd have him as close as possible to the final third and the goals, because that's where we want Percy Tau. That's where he's good at, you know. And if you guys do remember, in the AFCON qualifier we played at FNB Stadium, where we played against Ghana, Percy Tau did score a goal against Ghana, and he did pop up in this half space. So against Ghana, he will be very good in this half space. You'd be looking to hurt them in this half space. And when we look at then the relationship, Thapelo Morena would offer the width, Percy Tau would be in there. You know, that's more or less where we want Percy Tau occupying that space. So from that perspective, that's what I would do. And Evidence Mahopa, give him another go up front. Or you can go with Litswalo, you know. You can go with either one of the two. But I like Mahopa more than Litswalo, so I'd go with Mahopa. And then off the left-hand side, I'll start with... No. Let's rewind. Let's go back. As a striker, I'll go with Thabiso Kutumela. And the reason why I'd go with Thabiso Kutumela, because he's more of a mobile striker. And coming up against Ghana and the slow defensive Ghanaian side, you want to institute a free-flowing front 3 as opposed to a target man in Litswalo and Mahopa, because then it makes it easy for Jiku and Daniel Amati to mark our number 9. So when you have Kutumela, who's very mobile, who's going to make the runs, you're going to have a front 3 which will interchange, you know. So off the left side, I'd go through the sink, start off the left, looking to cut in. So that would be my front 3. And this would be a free-flowing front 3, because they'd always be looking to swap. You know, and when you have a front 3 as mobile as this against a slow Ghanaian side, I think we stand a very good chance of winning the game. And then you have Mbule as the chief creator, as the number 10. You have Mukwena supporting in midfield. You have Yusuf Mart. And then you have Mabiliso. You've got Rashun Duruk. You've got Jabulo Ngobo. And then you've got Thapelo Morena giving the width. I think when we approach this game like this, I think this is the best chance we have of winning. And for me, it's not about picking up 1 point. No, it's 3 points or nothing. That's what we need. You know, that's what we really need. And what I love about this approach and the personnel is that it's a double-edged sword, by virtue of the fact that if Ghana keep on to the possession, we can also hit them on the counter. So from an offensive perspective, it's great, because we can look to keep the ball rotated well and have a free-flowing front 3, which can look to get in on goal and score goals. And if we find ourselves penned in our own half, this is what we could do to them. And this is why I like having a mobile 9 or a false 9 in games like this, you know. this is the beauty of it, because then what we can do is, if, it's even bad to say this because we're playing at home. This should never be the approach. We've got those front three fluid players who can do very well on the counter-attack. So that's what I like about my approach and how I would approach the game. A, it's multifaceted. B, it's multi-dimensional. And C, it's a double-edged sword. So whichever way, if we're in their own half, we can hurt them. Without the ball, we can hurt them. So I just think that as a coach, whenever you approach games and you look at the opposition, you should always have so many ways to look at it. There's so many ways in which you could kill a cat. So you must look at it and think, okay, can I hurt them without the ball with this? Yes, we can. Can we hurt them when we've got the ball? Yes, we can. Can we hurt them when we're deep in their half? Yes. Can we hurt them when we're deep in our own half? Yes. And can we look to use set pieces? Yes, we can, because in these two centre halves, we've got two quality centre halves who are also very good in the air. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is my analysis of the game against Ghana. And if the approach is right, and we are brave, and we change the system, and we look at instituting a 4-3-3, I think we can walk away with a win, a narrow win. I really think we can. But if Hugo Broos approaches the game in the very same way, and as always, on Disky Talk with Liolo, we keep it as objective as possible. If Hugo Broos approaches the game he did the same way as he did against Zimbabwe for this game against Ghana, then we are going to lose. Yes, I've said it. We're going to lose if we approach the game the same way. If changes are not made and we don't see a positive start within the first 15 minutes, then we're going to lose. So I will give this win and this 3 points to Bafana Bafana by virtue of the fact that A, changes should be instituted, and B, it's subject to change. So if we see changes going into this game, change of personnel, change of formation, and change of approach, then we can get the 3 points. But if Hugo Broos is stubborn, then we're going to lose. Thank you very much for tuning in to yet another special episode of Disky Talk with Liolo. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode, and thank you guys very much for your continued love and support. As I would like to apologize, in the past week we did have certain technical issues and difficulties. However, we're back up and running, and your favorite footballing show is back, and looking forward then to giving you guys the best and most consistent quality footballing content. Thank you very much for your support. I thoroughly appreciate it, and thank you for tuning into this episode. I hope Bafana Bafana do the things. Signing out.